Part 134. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1345. Shi Yan, get out of here. Get out of here, I want to see how you can become butterflies. Yanj was sitting still, so he lifted his feet to go to Yanj's chair, and his feet were not so strong that he wouldn't even be knocked down by a chair. But Yan Ji still didn't respond, he just reached out and squeezed her chin. I wanted to scold her and ask her to get out. As a result, raising her face, she realized that she was in tears. Dare to keep silent, just sitting here crying? Shi Yan looked at the tearful face, and his heart became even more angry. Cry what you cry, if you are unhappy, call it out. If you have the ability, hit me and cry. Yanj reached out to wipe his tears, and said crying, then I'm gone. After speaking, get up and leave. Shi Yan. He grabbed Yan Ji's arm and took the person directly back into his arms. I want to see him, I take you there, so I put your tears away, I don't like the weeping woman. Yan Song is still crying, the tears are wiped more and more. Shi Yan looked very impatient and looked up to help her wipe her face. Don't cry anymore, don't look at him if you cry anymore. Yanj was aggrieved, choked, and said, I don't want to cry, I just can't help it. Look at this for you. Shi Yan poked her finger on her forehead, it's still equal to men and women, I have never cried like a ghost like you. Yan Ji frowned, crying louder. Shi Yan's hand was so strong that the poking of Yan Ji's forehead was red and swollen. He obviously didn't expect it, and immediately rubbed his words with the palm of his hand. Do not cry. Words song, wow, wow, wow. Damn, I want to you as soon as I hear your cry. He simply tossed the Chong Sam. He has a strong thief and tears the Chong Sam. It's embarrassing. He just wants to scare her. However, to Shi Yan's horrified look at the animals, Shi Yan felt that he might as well sit down. As a result, the song's whining becomes. She was biting the guy's shoulder with anger. Shi Yan, you a beast. Shi Yan laughed and said, before you said that my beast is not as good, but now I am a beast. It seems that this exercise is very satisfying to you. Words of song. Such a shameless person, she just couldn't give birth to the slightest disgust. She lifted her head slightly, biting his rolling throat knot and twitching her tongue. Shi Yan sighed softly and his action became more intense. The two rolled in the room for an entire afternoon, and Yan Ji had no strength to get up, let alone go to see the man in prison. This matter was naturally not mentioned by the two. Shi Yan was deserted for a whole day, and went out in the evening, until Yan Ji fell asleep without seeing him. At midnight the guy came back drunk. Don't forget to play with Yan's small white body when she gave her medicine, until she was so tired that she could sleep with Yanj. Yan Ji couldn't get a good night's sleep beside Shi Yan, and had a headache. However, she was very patient and could cling to Shi Yan's arms motionlessly, even if the pain was severe. It wasn't until Shi Yan left at dawn that Yan Ji made up for it again. It's noon when I wake up. She opened the closet and took a look. The sets of Chong Sam in the cabinet were all low slit, and when she looked at it, she was one size bigger. She was absolutely loose. The other dresses and skirts did not even show their arms and legs. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1346. It's going to be hot this summer. But apart from these outfits, there was nothing else she could choose from. These clothes must have been chosen by Shi Yan. What a dog is light. Men's aesthetics really exist as God. Yanj is dissatisfied and has to wear it. Yanj went downstairs, and the maid Zhang Ma busy asked Yanj if she wanted to eat in the dining room downstairs. Yan Ji nodded. Zhang's mother is an old man in Dasai house. Very familiar with the taste of the original owner. The meals are prepared according to the original owner's taste. Yanj had a meal and took a while reading the newspaper on the coffee table. She wanted to go out. The housekeeper said that she could not come out without Shi Yan's orders. Simply walk around in the yard. She couldn't leave Xiao's Hawaii and didn't think about leaving. Shi Yan was not in these days. She ate and slept every day. Life was very comfortable. Zhang Ma looked at the old Huixin comfortingly, and when she was chatting with her songs, she talked about Shi Yan's private life. The young man doesn't say anything on his lips, but he keeps thinking about Miss, I do auntie know if you do auntie I know how many women have been sent to the Marshal's house, and they have been placed in other hospitals without seeing the Marshal's face. The Marshals never stepped in, except for the lady. The young handsome doesn't look at other women. No wonder that guy was so fierce eating meat, it turned out to be a chick. Shi Yan didn't come back for 2 days. When his spermatorium was in bed, Zhang Ma was revealed to Yanj. Whenever Zhang Ma talks with Yanj, she will stare at Yanj's belly. I've only cracked it a few times. I haven't even cracked it for 10 days. How could she be pregnant? Yan Ji stared helplessly at an old hen like Zhang Ma who looked at the chicks. Shi Yan came back in the middle of the night on the 3rd day. As soon as I came back, I got to the bed of Yanj, touched my hand into the quilt, and grabbed left and right on Yanj. His hands did not say bing, the sleeves of the clothes were a bit stiff, and it was not comfortable at all for Yanj. Yan Ji reached out and patted him, just taking a gun bag around his waist. So curious to pull out the gun. Shi Yan held her hand and pulled her finger towards the middle. You can't touch that gun, this one can. This smelly hooligan. Never passed by. The words should be drawn back. But where can Shishi let the coming rabbit run away? He grabbed Yanj's hand and rubbed his gun. This gun is yours. Yanj lifted his feet and struck him, rogue. Shi Yan laughed, got up and undressed, and went to the bathroom to take a bath. From a beast to a hooligan, I have repeatedly mentioned the position in your heart, Zhang Xiaofeng, wouldn't you just abandon your little white face and like me? Yan Ji didn't answer. Shi Yan, who had his pants off, stood up, turned his head and glanced at the Isong when he entered the bathroom. Even if you don't like me, your body likes to be by me. When this guy came back, the room was full of anger. Yan Ji sighed, listening to the sound of the water in the bathroom. Her leisurely days are over. Shi Yan was clean, and he didn't scrub his body. When he got out of the bathroom and went to bed, his fingers went straight to the belly of Yanj. I'm not here. How did you apply the medicine yourself? Yanj, can't I live without you? Shi Yan, there isn't even a medicine smell in it. You haven't taken any medicine these days. Yan Song, are you annoyed, awkward? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1347. Grass, Shi Yang straightened in, I can't wait. Thankfully, I ate donkey meat tonight, as many times as you want. Yanj snorted and put his hand around his neck, take me to see him tomorrow. It depends on the mood of Lao Tzu, she said. You must calm down with Lao Tzu's gun. Yanj went upstairs to his neck and bit his lips. Although he didn't speak, his active attitude explained everything. Shi Yan's body was delighted. But thinking that the woman was pleased for that little white face, he felt that he would have to go out for business early in the morning. The donkey meat eaten by Shi Yan really worked. This evening, holding the song, there was no midfield call. After such friction, Yanj felt that he had to peel off the skin. She poked him, I'm sleepy. Shi Yan, you sleep yours, I cursed mine. Nima, Yan Song simply twisted the flesh from his ass. No way, this guy is full of muscles, and the meat on the eggs can be twisted. She gritted her teeth and said, "I want to sleep." Shi Yan shook his butt, "Spike." She thought that she could fight for another 300 rounds, but she didn't expect to explain it so soon. Angrily hit the culprit's egg, "It's you who shouts don't stop, it's you who shouts to stop, do you think I'm a car, I can stop when I stop." He knew her skin was delicate, and her hands were not strong at all, but the crisp applause was particularly loud in the room. Moreover, the flesh of her hips was very springy, she wanted to hit it twice, and wanted to pinch it. He certainly would not restrain his desires. Scraping, one turned up and pushed Yanji directly onto the bed, slamming and slamming. "Yanj, this way I can't sleep." "Shi Yan, don't sleep then, call your two brothers to listen." "Song, Dad." "Shi Yan, grass." He felt that the seemingly domestic horse under him was actually a wild horse. The wild horse was difficult to tame, which completely inspired his desire to conquer. He was not in a hurry to continue riding anymore, he just leaned over her and drank the ignition, talking in and out. Sure enough, after a while, Yanj entangled himself and called him softly, "Brother, brother." Humph. What new age women are pursuing new ideas, is not a woman full of anger in bed. Waking up early in the morning the next day, Shi Yan's shadow was gone. She asked her mother, Zhang Shi, and learned that Shi Ya had gone out in the morning, probably because something had happened outside. Yanj didn't care, the guy was gone, and she just made up for it. Nima's powerful one this time is just an old wolf dog. Not to mention the waist, but also Sayabai. When I got to bed, my mouth was full of fishy mouths all the time. She really wants to fight it? It was not until noon that Shi Yang returned. The two had lunch together in the dining room downstairs. Since Yanj lived in, Shi Yan moved the place where the guests had negotiated with his men to another yard. Although they are in the same place, the two yards are quite far apart. He was also in case he was repeatedly prying into the corner. After all, the woman was so stupid and ignorant that she could run away when she was coaxed. Yanj waited for him to finish before putting down his chopsticks together, "Take me to see him today." Shi Yan heard his words and looked up, staring blankly at Yanj. "Yan Song, I'll just look at him and don't do anything else. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1348. Shi Yan heard his words, his eyebrows frowned suddenly, "Don't you want to do something else?" "Yan Song, I can watch what you can do." Shi Yan's angry feelings were calmed down at any time. "Huh, I was conscious, I knew he wanted to follow." "Yan Song, are you busy in the afternoon?" Shi Yan's voice was unpleasant, "I said you can not watch it if you are busy." Yan Ji didn't answer, only slightly lowered his eyes, his face was lonely. Shi Yan spoke impatiently with him, but he was even more impatient to see Yanj look like he was crying, and he threw down his chopsticks. "Leave me, I'll take you to see him." Yanj stood up, "I haven't washed my face and brushed my teeth." Shi Yan turned his head and glared at her, "If you don't wash your face and brush your teeth, he can still abandon you. Damn, if you dare to grind any more, I will leave." Yanj hurriedly walked to him, and took his hand in a small hand. I'm going. Shi Yan glanced at the finger pulled by Yan Ji. Inexplicably a little happy, but more unhappy. Damn, for that little white face, she not only learned to climb the bed, she even learned to hold hands. He was not happy at all, and very angry. However, the thought of that little white face can be regarded as one of his God's assists, and suddenly he was extremely incomparable. Huh, it's really good to eat. The environment in the prison was not very good. Shi Yan didn't want to enter the song, so he waited in the waiting room. After a while, the prison guard brought Bai Yuking. Bai Yuking is the true love of the original owner. Life in jail was not good, Bai Yuking was still taken care of by Shi Yan, and naturally he couldn't get better. Originally, a pretty boy, now it's good, but the bird's nest is as messy as it is, the whole person is thin and skinny. Where is there something like Liang Cheng's first beautiful man? Yan Ji apparently did not expect Bai Yuking to look like this. She stared at Bai Yuking in surprise and couldn't even speak for a while. When Bai Yuking entered the door, he saw Shi Yan standing beside Yan Ji, but his eyes never looked towards Shi Yan, only looking at Yan Ji. Xiao Feng, don't think about saving me anymore. In this life, being able to dedicate your life to your ideal is also a way to get what you want. I die without regrets. He paused and said, Xiao Feng, the revolution has not yet succeeded. You have to cheer, I believe you can. What the is talking about shit? Yan Ji looked at him and looked at her, and tears came out. She whined and reached out to wipe her tears, saying, I never thought of any revolution. The revolution with you was because you look good. Now you are so ugly. It's too ugly. Yu Qing, sorry, you are like this now, I can't look at it more. Yanj covered her face and ran out hummingly. Bai Yuking, his speech is not over yet. Shi Yan turned out to be a superficial woman looking at her face. Knowing this, he should have disfigured Bai Yuking earlier. Suddenly I got the hidden skills of my loved ones. Shi Yan was too lazy to talk to Bai Yuking. He chased out a few steps, and found that Song of Song was standing outside against the wall, still crying sadly. Cry, the more miserable the cry, the more desperate her true love is. However, after Yan Ji cried a few times, he took out his handkerchief and wiped away the tears on his face. After touching it, I took a small mirror from the handbag and took a picture. I looked up at Shi Yan and asked, is my face crying? Is my hair messy? Shi Yan. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1349. Woman's heart really Nima undersea needle. Shi Yan's heart suddenly felt a little stunned. A few steps passed, and fingers swayed Yan's hair slowly, and wiped the tears on the corners of Yan's eyes slowly with his fingers. Don't be sad, he said softly, he's not worth your sadness. Yan Ji wailed and nodded in agreement, it's really ugly, it's really not worth my sadness. Shi Yan. When Shi Yan left Yan's hand, he knew afterwards that he knew why he was a little scared. Because his face does not seem to fit the aesthetics of a woman like Zhang Xiaofeng. The woman always said that his face was cruel. Therefore, she has always disliked him because of the wrong aesthetics. And that little white face, that year she wanted to die and live like it, and for that little white face he did not hesitate to cut off the relationship with the Marshall house. For the little white face, she hesitated to climb his bed and took his hand. But now, just because Xiaobai's face has become an old dog coin, she doesn't like it, and crying twice feels like a waste of tears. The more I think about it, the more I have the chill of my back. Is this woman amorous or ruthless? The woman who couldn't hold his heart, grabbed his palm with his fingers, don't want to say something. Shi Yan really didn't want to talk. He turned his head and squinted at the woman. The woman dropped her head slightly, her long eyelashes trembled, and her tiny red lips were fluffy on the cracked face, which made people want to bite. It's just a ripe red cherry. Such a red cherry, the little white face could not bear to taste it, I'm afraid it's not a real man. His thoughts were disturbed, and the idea in Shi Yan's mind was tangled. He suddenly felt that he and Xiao Balian were different. Little Balian got her true love by brushing her face. He grinned, he was relying on a big living machine. 101,000 little white faces couldn't compare with him. Even if his face was disfigured one day, she might not leave him. After all, his equipment is still there. Yan Ji certainly didn't know that there were so many inner dramas among the men around him. The two got in the car. She lay back a bit tired. He reached out and took her directly to his shoulders. Hungry or hungry? What do you want? I'll take you to eat. Yan Ji keenly noticed the joy in his voice. Wasn't this man a look of energy and weakness before he could die? This is because the reflection arc is too slow. I just realized that she has nothing to do with by looking so happy. Yan Ji squinted his eyes and snorted weakly, anywhere. It doesn't matter what you eat. She is a good baby who is not picky. Shi Yan took Yanj to eat Fengmanlu, Liangqing's most famous. She wanted to bring her something to eat, but she regretted it when she went. In places like Fengmanlu, people who go to these places have heads and faces. None of these people do not know Shi Yan. One by one, they said hello to Shiju, and wanted to sacrifice Shiju when he saw the opportunity. Shi Yongguang went upstairs to say hello to many people. When he entered the box, several people came to visit. It's really annoying. When the meal came to the table, Shi Yan rubbed his head and said, "You eat first, and I will pay a respect to the wine. It won't take long." Yanj waved at him nicely, "You go." When Shi Yan went out, he realized that Zhang Xiaofeng was not the same as before. She used to hate this kind of hypocritical entertaining. She called her dad a joke and scolded him as shameless. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1350. But just now, this woman seemed to say nothing? And there was no sign of disgust on his face. Shi Yan guessed that it was Xiaobalian's ugly that hit her too much. Alas, I was so frightened. Yan Ji could not eat a few sips and lost his interest. He leaned his cheeks in front of the window and stared at the people coming and going on the road. A car stopped at the door of Fengmanlu, and the person in the co-pilot position got off and opened the rear door. A seemingly ill man came down from the rear parking space. Yan Ji glanced at him when he saw him. Originally, I wanted to throw the drinking teacup down, but when I thought about it, if the teacup fell on this guy's head, I might hang him. So she just threw the pouch on her hand. As a result, when the papa was about to fall on the top of the man's head, there was a gust of wind. As soon as it was blown, the handkerchief was blown into the door eaves of Fengmanlu. I couldn't catch my shoulders. After such a delay, the man has entered Fengmanlu. Missing such a good opportunity, Yan Ji really wanted to cry and scold his mother. With Ziyu in front, those people on the street can't get into the eyes of words. It's just a lively look. A gunshot sounded at this time. Yan Ji agitated, and walked a few steps to close the box door. The box door was pushed open at this time. A group of people came in, and it seemed that there was only one female dependent in the box. The two men headed for a glance at the words and swept the corner of the box again. One of them quickly walked to the window and looked out. The man in the middle walked into the door and yelled at the song, "Excuse me." This man is exactly the man who just got off the car. After saying this, he sat in a chair with his own eyes. He was followed by two others, who quickly closed the box door, held a gun in his hand, and stared at the door of the box vigilantly. The few people standing were all alert. Only men were sitting there, playing with tea sets on the table. When he looked up and looked at Shang Yanj, his voice said gently, "This is Shi Shuishui's private room. Are you his family?" Yan Ji nodded, "My father is Zhang Xingguo." A look of enlightenment appeared on the man's face. A re-examination of Yanj said, "Where did Shi Xiao's Huai go?" "Yan Song, why should I tell you?" The man raised an eyebrow and smiled at the song, "So." He said nothing, reached out and took a piece of parchment from his arms and threw it on the table in front of Yanj. "Miss Zhang just dropped something, and now it belongs to the original owner." The words are a bit unexpected. In the memory of the original owner, This man was called Ji Ziashan, and he was also called General Xiaoji. He is a staff officer from Beijing. It seems to be very low-key, but it's very flattering, because there is a dad who is almost the boss in Beijing. In the local area, even Shi Yan has to give this guy a three-pointed face. So this era can also be regarded as the era of fighting dad. But unfortunately, the original owner had a good father, but he lost this good card in person. In the original owner's life, she searched for people to save by yuking, but later she went into the dark of the official circle and couldn't help it. Later, after going to the capital with Bai Yuking, she was introduced to the General Ji. Although General Ji Xiao looked thin and weak and warm and moist, it was very harmless, but the core was a pervert. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1351. Ji Ziashan doesn't sleep the original owner, but he likes to watch the original lead singer dance and sing. And I really like to see the original owner crying. Occasionally, I took a whip to pull the original owner a few times. Yanj doesn't have the emotion of the original owner, but the original owner's memories of walking around and watching the lights are also slightly understood. Her interest in this man was not because he was a pervert. It was because the moment she saw him, her eyebrows were slightly warm, like blood was boiling. This feeling was not uncomfortable or painful, but made her heart twitch. A hunter found the excitement of the prey. Yan Ji did not pick up a handkerchief. She smiled frowningly. As soon as I saw Mr. getting out of the car, he lost the papa with a loss of mind. It was unexpected that he would be picked up by Mr. There was a gunshot outside, and the noise of people's hustle was mixed with the sound of gunshots, which sounded terrible when they heard it. Ji Ziashan's complexion remained unchanged, and he didn't even make a rationale song, only playing with the teacup in his hand. I don't want to let go of such a good opportunity. She asked him, are these people coming to Mr. Ji Ziashan raised his head and glanced at his words. His voice was mild, cultivate, and do good. His eyebrows were always smiling and his voice was warm and moist. Even so, for some reason, I always felt that he was like a flower in a mist in the water, which made him feel alienated and indifferent. The words are as good as the good. Are these people trying to cultivate good? Ji Ziashan shook his head. It's my person who comes to a few rich merchants who eat in this building. Words of song. For a while I didn't know what to talk to this guy. She set her eyes on the table. The food on the table is still hot. Would you like to eat something? I didn't move much. Ji Ziashan, thank you. After that, I picked up the chopsticks. Yanj sat silently on the side, watching him slowly and windy. After a while, almost all the meat on the table was eaten by this guy. It is estimated that 3 or 5 men cannot finish this table. But he was cleaned by him. Yanj increasingly affirmed the identity of this guy. Putting down the chopsticks gracefully, Ji Ziashan wiped his mouth with a silk cloth, apologizing to the singer, I'm sorry to eat a lot. Yan song, this is more than just so many. Just then, the door of the box was kicked. The door wasn't sturdy, but Shi Yan's voice rang outside, Zhang Xiaofeng, your special lady is here, squeak. It's Shi Sui. Yan Ji said to Ji Ziashan, can you open the door? Ji Ziashan nodded toward the 2 men guarding the door, and the door was opened. As soon as Shi Yan entered the box, he saw Ji Ziashan frowning, but immediately he walked quickly to Yan Ji, blocking him behind him, and then reached out to Ji Xiushan, Ji staff, thank you. Ji Ziashan reached out and shook hands with him, just call me Xiaoji. I didn't tell anyone when I came out. A low-key point is always good. A low-key fart, all of them are so low-key when they kill in FemaleLead. Shi Yan's defamation in his heart was haha with a smile on his face, Mr. Xiaoji. He stepped aside and pointed to the song saying, this is Ni Isa. Thank you for taking care of Mr. Xiaoji, we will not disturb Mr. Xiaoji. Anyway, I will leave after pulling the song. Jixian, goodbye. The two men did not intend to communicate with each other. Until Song Yan was pulled out of the box, Yanj was still stunned. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1352. The main reason is that Yanj is really reluctant. It's almost like a piece of meat running to the mouth. Shi Yan squeezed her hand tightly. Is Jixian looking good? To stay on weekdays, Shi Yan will definitely take the opportunity to talk with Jixian more. But today, when he saw Jixian's little white face that was as warm as jade, his heart was a little stunned. I see wait for a long time to pull Yanj, where I will stay for a while. Yan Ji nodded honestly, it really looks good. Shi Yan's eyes narrowed slightly, it looks better than Bai Yuking's little white face. Yanj thinks, but on the face, Bai Yuking doesn't even match Jixian's shoes. After all, Bai Yuking is extremely ugly, it's better than 100 white Yukings. Ah! She shook the hand pinched by Shi Yan. Why are you so hard? I want to pinch your finger. Shi Yan, oh, I thought it was my gun. After a pause, he said, you don't want to see Jixian, right? Yan Song was surprised. She felt that Shi Yan's sixth sense was quite accurate. She thought about it, if I fancy it, can you tie him to my bed? I tied you up. Shi Yan was so angry that he stretched out his hand and wrapped up Yanj's waist, carrying the person directly on his shoulder. Zhang Xiaofeng warns you that if you dare to put a green hat on Lao Tzu, I will poke you into a sieve with a gun. Yan Song, why poke into a sieve? Shi Yan. Is the focus of poke into a sieve? The point is that the special green hat is good. When he got in the car, Shi Yan put the person directly on his lap and shouted according to her shoulder, Zhang Xiaofeng, Jixian is not someone you can provoke. If you dare to have a messy mind, I will interrupt your leg. Call you a dad, you don't really think you are my dad. Yan Ji stared up at him angrily, my dad also said that I would break my leg, you all regarded me as one if something breaks, say a broken leg. When you're a fool. Shi Yan didn't expect him to be angry yet. The woman stunned and said, Lao Tzu doesn't talk as well as your dad, you dare to break your leg. In fact, soon Xiaoshui was beaten. At night, Yan Ji's headache was covered with sweat, and Shi Xiaoshui was holding Yan Ji to go to the hospital. As a result, the song whimpered and cried, I don't want to go to the hospital, I don't want to. Shi Xiaoshui, you have no right to decide. The song whispered, I want to drink rock sugar water, I want to eat maltose, I want to eat meat and bones. Shi Xiaoshui, grass. Do you have to go to the hospital to eat first? You should go to the execution ground. Although this was said on the lips, it didn't take long for the food that Yanj wanted to deliver. She was fed by Shi Xiaoshui herself. Yanzhuo chewed maltose in his arms, you asked me to listen to dad. You're paralyzed and you're dead. Shi Xiaoshui suddenly blew his hair, did you pretend to be sick on purpose, right? Believe me or not, I threw you off the window. Zhang Xiaofeng, I warned you, you must not go too far, I have limited patience. Yan Song raised his head and cried in tears, palpitation, shortness of breath, uncomfortable, uncomfortable. Huh, I'll take you to the hospital right away. Yanj interrupted him, I did this because I was unhappy. You wouldn't do that if you called me. Get off. Shi Xiaoshui didn't let the woman get used to this problem, and threw the person directly back to the bed, can't go. Yanj snorted and got into the bed and became a ball. After a while, Shi Xiaoshui lifted his feet and said, the egg scooped up, I call your father, should you go to the hospital? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1353. Yan Ji was taken to the hospital by Shi Yang. Liangcheng also has a so-called foreigner hospital, but the scale of the hospital is not large. The dean personally took over and performed a full-body examination of Yanj, and did not notice anything unusual about Yanj's body. Of course, it is mainly because the hospital's medical equipment cannot keep up. The dean tenderly suggested that Shi Yang send people to Beijing or Shanghai's big hospital to see. Although expected, Shi Yan's heart was still a little irritable. It was said in advance that, in addition to going to the hospital, when you need to walk, Shi Yan must carry a song. This treaty of bereavement and humiliation is even more severe than Shi Jian's words. When he got home, Yan Ji climbed up Shi Yan's back as usual, and this guy kicked her upstairs. Shi Ji didn't say anything this way, and Yan Ji simply dragged his ear. It seems your father is crying for nothing. Shi Yan, shut up. Yanj, in fact, I have nothing, I just pretended. Shi Yan, Palms, shut up. Yanj, what's it like to call my dad? Is there a feeling that the tired bird came home and the chick found his mother? Shi Yan, he. Quickly stepping into the house, Shi Yan threw people directly onto the bed. He didn't wait for the song to respond, he took off his pants and slammed the song on his ass. Playing Laozi is fun, isn't it? Laozi makes you happy today. Too many tricks did make the old driver of Yanj have a good time. Afterwards, Ishigaki was so unbelievable that he smoked a cigar with his legs crossed. The smoke was lingering, and I finally understood what it meant to be a smoke over the living god. He reached for a face with a chanting speech, and he awakened the sleepy chanting speech. Unhappy. Yanj hummed with his eyes closed, yes. This is too perfunctory, and Shi Yan gave her another blow. Yan Ji screamed in pain, shouting indignantly, sweet, cool mother, don't be fooled. Sleepiness has been driven away by this guy. Shi Yan was still not satisfied. Still too perfunctory. He simply extinguished the cigar and kissed Yan Ji's lips. You just called my brother crying. Words, you call my dad, I call your brother is also a gift. This black history. Shi Yan was so angry that he wanted to get up. He hugged the woman in his arms discouragedly. Before he fell asleep, he was still thinking that this woman should no longer remember the man who looked 100 times better than Bai Yuking. After all, the man was thin and weak, and he was a disease-ridden guy, that is, embroidered pillows were useless. When Chij woke up the next day, Shi Yan had already left. She stared at the ceiling for a long time, and finally couldn't get to sleep, holding the quilt to sleep. She probably was afraid that she would put him on a green hat and took care of her very seriously. Unless she went out with Shi Yao, she could only stay in the Xiao's Hawaii at other times. Young Handsome Mansion always used Yanj as the hostess's waitress, and Zhang's mother stared at Yanj's belly all the time. But Yan Ji's belly not only failed to bulge, her body was losing weight quickly. His face was getting paler and paler. A few days after Shi Yang left Liangcheng again, he touched the quilt of Yanj in the middle of the night, holding his increasingly lighter body in his arms, and gradually tightened his hands, but did nothing else. With the night light shining, he could clearly see her eyebrows. She used to be round and tender, but now she's skinny. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1354. Since saying to him that the illness was pretended that night, Yanj really hasn't onset again. As if the illness was indeed pretended by her. But her physical condition can't fool people. Shi Yan put her chin gently into her neck, closed her eyes, and fell asleep. Yanj was awakened by this guy the next day. When this guy came back, it was almost like a locust crossing, and he would not rest unless he squeezed himself out every day. Fortunately, she is used to this daily life. His eyes hadn't opened, and his thin arms closed around his neck. She hung under her, soft and weak and small, as if he could let her body fall apart with just a little effort. He slowed down and leaned down to kiss her eyebrows. Zhang Ma said, you haven't eaten well for the past 2 days. Yanj, I'm worried about you. I'm so worried. Tea doesn't make you think of rice or fragrant. I don't believe your gossip. Having said that, he moved more gently, holding her hands very tightly, really anxious to fuse her into his own body. Yan Ji raised his head and froze at his stubborn jaw, frowning unpleasantly. Why didn't you shave? Shi Yan strangled her face again. I can't afford to shave. Every time, she could not see but shave him with his eyes. He was used to this waiting life, so he would not take the initiative to shave. Yan Song dissatisfied with his head in his arms. Frightening, he stroked her hair and raised the corners of his lips. A beard is a man. A man without a beard is a little white face with no ability. Yanj, you're talking about eunuchs, not small faces. What Shi Yan is about to say is not, Bai Yuking came to you. Why didn't you see him? It's ugly, Yanj said. I had a nightmare for a few days when I saw him last time. I'm afraid I'll have nightmares all my life. Shi Yan is silent, but moves faster. Yanj shoved his shoulder. Why did you suddenly say this? Shi Yan stared at her curious look. Suddenly, she wasn't drunk in the boat show of 2 people. He simply lay down and pulled her up. Do it yourself. His preference for her in this regard was also clear. Sure enough, the song that had mastered the initiative was immediately full of power, and entered the state like a little motor. Oh, dis Yao Ma is not her, but Shi Shui Shui. Afterwards, of course, you have to have another cigar. Today, Mr. Shi Shui, who swallows the clouds and mists, is obviously different in peace days. Yan Song stared at him several times. He broke up and asked, are you in trouble? Shi Yan, no. Yan Song, fell in love with other little girls. Shi Yan glanced at her, I like you. Yanj, oh, shouldn't you suddenly realize that you can't live without me? Shi Yan didn't answer this time. He took a few hard blows, extinguished the cigar, turned around and carried Yanj into his arms, and his broad and warm palms covered Yanj's belly. He has worked so hard, why is there nothing in this place? Yan Ji immediately understood Shi's sorrow. She simply advised him, did you want a child, Shi? You don't have a lot of women in your hospital. You can grow 5 in one night, and it won't take you a week. You just when it can be planted, there will always be 1 or 2 children. Shi Yan pinched the waist of a song, I'm afraid of willow disease. Words of song. So this guy keeps himself clean and doesn't sleep with other women, is it because he is afraid of flower willow disease? Really love yourself to the extreme. Yanj, not necessarily all sick. Shi Yan, I'm still afraid to be a father. That's no solution.